sería todo un año sin nieve en la ciudad.
Oh.
Y avanzar bajo el influjo del sol. Mañana será un día distinto del que tu cabeza imagina. Seguir la corriente al instinto, eso es estar vivo, aunque es verdad.
Hey there, English speakers. Jesse here. Can you hear me? Am I here? Am I live? I think we're live. And let's see. Let's see who's here. Let's see. Welcome. Welcome. We made it. We made it. We made it, Mama. Finally, after all of this hassle and headaches and everything else, I think we made it. There's a few people watching. Chloe, nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. You can see my message. Yes, I can see your message. Oh, and my daughter is wonderful. Thank you for joining. So there are a few ways that you can watch me, that you may be watching me right now. You may be watching me on Facebook at the Jesse Teacher page, or on YouTube at Language Galaxy. Of course, I remember you. You're the best. And I'm glad you remember me. So we're here, and we're going to be studying English grammar today. Yesterday, we looked at some grammar, and I also like talking about real-life situations and answering questions. So first, before we get started, hi, Deva. Nice to see you. Let me know if you're going to try to call me later for class. You can join me in class. First, I'm Jesse. Welcome. Hi, John Adams. I'm Jesse. I'll be your teacher today. And I'm here, at least for the next 2 weeks, doing this every day, mostly on Facebook right now. Every Tuesday is the live class on YouTube. And if you'd like to join me, if you'd like to have class, and then you can join me on Google Hangouts and learn how to contact me. I can't just say my Google Hangout on here publicly, because I've done that before, and then I've gotten some strange emails from some strange robots. So, but I'm here. If you'd like to join the conversation, feel free to call me if you know my contact information. If not, then you can go to Language Galaxy Academy and find out. I'm going to share the link to the lesson that we have in the chats. So you can follow along with the exercises and do the exercises, do the quizzes, and you can follow along with what I'm talking about, right? You can find it here. We're going to pin this to the top. And how are you? How are you? Today is Tuesday. Well, I guess the 23rd of January. So how are you? Let me see in your chat. How are you today? What time is it where you're at? What time is it? Right now, it's 11:15 a.m. here, local time in Spanish time. Before we get started, let me tell you where you can find me. Obviously, you know, if you're watching me on Facebook and YouTube here, you can also find me at Language Galaxy Academy.teachable.com. Don't worry, that's a long name. It's way too long. I know. And I'm in the process of changing that. So stick with me. Thank you for sticking with me. But in Language Galaxy Academy, you can click on English Training and More. And if you're a member of English Training and More, you get all of my online courses. You get access to a private Facebook group where I teach private lessons and you get closer contact. I offer free lessons. You get discounted lessons on full 1 hour classes. So consider joining there. And I'm just trying to get better at this. If you have any, by the way, if you have any feedback, maybe one class will do suggestion, like expressions to make suggestions, right? To give suggestions, right? But if you have any feedback for my classes and for my videos, for my lessons, then they are always welcome. Chloe, it's 7:16 p.m. in Korea. Very nice. 7:16. It's 11:16 a.m. How do we say that, the time difference? How do we say the time difference? We went over that yesterday, but the time difference, it's 11:16 here. It's 7:16 p.m. there. Here it's a.m. How would we say the time difference? In Jakarta, it's 5:15 p.m. I'm assuming that's p.m. Good. And it's 1:14 p.m. where Deva is. So just write in the comments, how do you say the sentence between the time difference? We went over that yesterday. Another thing I'd like to say before we get started is if you're like this, if you're a member or if you're watching, then I really appreciate it if you click the share button. Somewhere here or here, there's a share button if you're watching on Facebook. On YouTube, well, it's still down there. And share it in a Facebook group you're in, or you know, on your Facebook page if you'd like, but in a Facebook group you're in, and that way more people will know and we can have a lot more interaction and learn from each other. So, but do you remember how to say the time difference? The time difference between Spain and Korea is 8 hours. I understand what you're saying, but in yesterday's class, we learned there is. We start the sentence with there is or un. And then, for example, 8-hour difference between Korea and Spain, for example, right? So that's one way. Remember, we went over that. There is a or un time difference, or, and then how you get more specific, who is ahead and who is behind. You are blah, blah, blah time, 8 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 1 hour. Do you remember how we say this? What are the words we use? Ahead of or behind. So we'll say this. Person one or people one, group one is 8 hours ahead of you. So we would say Korea is, there is an 8-hour difference between Spain and Korea. Very nice, Chloe. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I don't know about less. Well, join me on the YouTube, not YouTube. I'm getting confused with all this. Facebook, on my Facebook page, it's called Jesse Teacher. It's brand new. I live stream every day, and it's really great. I think you'd love it. So join me there. But I also love that you're watching on YouTube, because I'd like to go on YouTube more full-time eventually. So that's awesome. And more people are shuffling in. That's great. If more people come on Facebook, on YouTube, I'll do more YouTube. But tell me then, one is 2 hours ahead of two, right? Well, let's do A and B, for example. A is 2 hours ahead of B. B is 2 hours behind A. Right? What do we have? Deva and John Adams, where are you? What's the time difference for you? Don't forget to add. Don't forget to join in the conversation. So, if you'd like to call for an actual lesson, then feel free to call on Google Hangouts. And we're gonna try that, I think, a little more interactive. We try things around here, don't we? So, let's see. It's Tuesday. What do you guys have this week? What are you doing this week? We have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Do you have any plans this week? I don't have plans that much. Today I'm going to pick up my daughter from school, and that's all. How's the quality? It's probably not that clear on, doesn't look that clear to me on YouTube, but we're gonna get through it anyway. So, tell me about your time difference. Chloe, Deva, John Adams, tell me about your our time difference. Where are you in relation to me? It's 11:22 now a.m. here. So, let's get right into the lesson then. Very clear. Sorry, I don't know. Oh, very clear. Oh, it's very clear. Awesome. Okay, let's get into the lesson. If you're not, I have a blog with this lesson on languagegalaxy.net. I'm not sure if you're there. In the YouTube description box, I think, yes, there it is. You can click on that and go right to the lesson. And in the Facebook comments, you can go on the lesson. And we're going to just work right down the lesson and learn about direct or indirect questions. Right? So, write for me. I'm going to erase the board. I want you to write in the class. I should look at the camera more. Write an example of a direct question. A direct question is a basic question that you know of as a question, right? What time is it? That's an example of a direct question. Don't write that one. What's your name? That's a direct question. How many fingers do I have? That's a direct question. right? I want you to write a direct question in the comments, and I'm going to erase the board. Write an example of a direct question. But let's see. The difference between you and me around 5 hours. Nope. Go back. John Adams. Go back after this video and watch the beginning again, and you'll get the correct way to say that. Here is 1:22. So I'm ahead of you 2 hours, and you are behind me 2 hours. Close, Diva, close. I'm 2 hours ahead of you, you would say, right? I'm 2 hours ahead of you, but you're very close. Very nice. You're learning. I like this. You're learning a lot. Excellent. And my YouTube people, write an example, and Facebook people, write an example of a direct question. Any direct question, and then we're going to work and make it indirect. Let's see. But I'm not sure. Am I right? But I'm not sure I'm right. Okay. What are you screaming about, Chloe? I need you to write a direct question. Like, what time is it? We'll work. How many times do you work out in a week? All right. Excellent. Very nice. That's a good question. How many times? We'll just do that so we can work with more than just one example. But I like that example. I like that question. How many times do you work out in a week? This is a direct question, right? So we have a question word, how many, who, why, where, which, how many, how much, things like that. You have a question word once. And then, or how many times, and then maybe an auxiliary verb, do, am, are, is. Can modal verbs go here? Can you jump, right? Auxiliary modal verb, and then your subject, right? So let's take the question word away for once. At first, let's do can. Can you jump high? Can you jump high? Okay, that's a direct question. In an indirect question, we reverse the modal verb or auxiliary verb and the subject, right? So that's kind of like a sentence. Can you jump high? That's a question. You can jump high. That's a sentence. So in an indirect question, we put the beginning. Let's see. Tell me if you can jump high. We wouldn't say, tell me if can you jump high. We wouldn't say that. Tell me if you can jump high. That's the sentence, right? Okay. Now, how many times do you work out? We'll work with that one. I'd like you to make this into an indirect question. An indirect question. And we can start with it with, let's start with the sentence, I'd like to know. I'd like to know. Start the question like that. I'd like to know, and see if we can make this into an indirect question. I'd like to know how many times these change. These ones change, right? I'd like to know how many times, and complete this. I'd like to know maybe. No, you're doing great, Chloe. Tell me if you can jump high. Yes, that's an indirect question. Tell me if you can jump high. I'd like to know how many times a week, how many times you work out in a week. That'll work. I'd like, well done, Chloe. Excellent. Deva and John Adams, I'd like to write your example of, and somebody else who's watching in YouTube. And anybody on Facebook too. I'd like to know how many times a week you work out, or how many times you work out in a week. We don't need do. Okay. Let's hop over on YouTube. I'm going to go over and share my screen with the blog. And I'm going to invite you to go check out the blog and check out the worksheet. So we have here direct and indirect questions. So let's start reading. Direct or indirect? That's the question. You see what I did there? I hear that all the time I hear it all the time in my lessons. Students will say something, I don't know, what is it? I don't know, what is it? Have you ever said that? Look closely at the word order. It's easy to miss if you're not looking for it, right? What is it? That's the direct question. What is it? That's a direct question. But if you add this, I don't know, that changes it to indirect, right? So the question is, what is it? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. You need to change the it and it is. Okay, let's look at another example. What is it? I don't know what it is, right? Direct question, indirect question. As we've talked about, direct questions are what we typically think about with questions, right? What time is it? Where is she going? Is there anything to eat? How old are you? Do you have your homework? Can I borrow a pencil? Do you know how to play an instrument? All of these are direct questions. Those are direct questions. Now, indirect questions are formed as sentences, right? So you just take a sentence order and put it behind a starter, right? And the thing about indirect questions, this is important to note, they're typically more polite or formal. So I could say, what time is it? I could say, what time is it? That's okay. But if you want to sound a little more polite or a little, it's very British. Okay. British English, British people are normally a lot more polite, I guess you could say. British English. Let me take British. They're more polite. They're more proper than American English. But so we use indirect questions when we're trying to be a little more polite. Okay? So if you're in, tell me what time it is. That's it, Chloe. That's what I'm talking about. So, let's go back to the blog. So, instead of what time is it, can you tell me what time it is? Do you know where, instead of where is she going? Do you know where she is going? Could you tell me if there's anything to eat? What would be the direct question? Could you tell me if there's anything to eat? What would be the direct question? Okay. For those watching here, for those who are just watching the screen, there, I wrote this for you. Could you tell me? She said, I saw her direct. I had seen her. She was there indirect. She told him that she was sad. That's not an indirect question, but that is indirect speech. So, or reported speech. So, well done. Is there anything to eat? Chloe, yes. Could you tell me if there's anything to eat? Is there anything to eat? Perfect. That's the direct question. Now, here are different ways to begin indirect questions. Could you tell me where you went? Right? That's indirect. Where did you go? Would be the direct. Ask him where he went for vacation. Ask him, right? Where did he go? Ask him where he went. That's indirect. These are all indirect questions. A little different than indirect or reported speech, but what are weddings like in Saudi Arabia? That's a direct question, right? Can you tell me what weddings are like in Saudi Arabia? Okay, that's the indirect. Can you tell me? So we have can you tell me? Could you tell me? Ask him. Remind me. Remind me where you live again. Remind me where you live again. What would be this one in a direct question? Remind me where you live again. What's that in direct question? May I ask you? Yes. May I ask you? And then you'd want to add the rest of the question. May I ask you where you live? May I ask you where you live? And the direct question is, where do you live? Right? Okay. What's the direct question for remind me where you live again? Remind me where you live again. What's the direct question? Could you tell me what's your favorite recipe? No. Could you tell me what your favorite recipe is, Deva? But close. Remember, what's your favorite recipe is the direct question. We don't put the direct question and indirect question together. We don't do that. So, could you tell me what your favorite recipe is? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about where do you live? That's what I'm talking about. Chloe, yes. Where do you live? Remind me again where you live again. Remind me where you live again. How much is it? Is direct. Do you know? I'd like to know. All of these, if you can see these, all of these are ways. I wonder, and there are so many more things, right? Okay. Chloe, you can see on the bottom, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see on the bottom these examples. I want you to practice changing these, and you don't have to ask your teacher. You can just ask me and practice them now. Change these to from direct questions to indirect questions. Change these sentences from direct questions to indirect questions. That you see these, Deva, Facebook people, you see these? I put these in the chat. I'd like you to write them down and change them to indirect questions. We're going to practice. So, number one, what will you do when you get there? What will you do when you get there? Change that to an indirect question. What will you do when you get there? Change that to an indirect question. What, number one? We're working number one. What will you do when you get there? Tell me what you will do when you get there. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Chloe, very nice. Oh, you're going straight on to number two. Okay, number two. Where are my shoes? Oh, when you get there, what will you do? Okay. Deva, that is not an indirect question. That's just another way to say a direct question. Remember, an indirect question, it's maybe let me know what you will do when you get there. Right? What will you do when you get there? Let me know what will you gets reversed, right? What you will do. Let me know what you will do. Number two, where will you go? Where are you going? No. We're going to need to keep practicing indirect and direct questions. Facebook people. Tell me, how about number two? I'd like to know where my shoes are. Yes. Number two, where are my shoes? Is that what my number two question is? Where are my shoes? Yes. I'd like to know where my shoes are. Yes. And you can also say to have a little more emphasis, if you've been looking and you don't know. I'd love to know where my shoes are right now. I'd love to know where my shoes are right now. Right? You could add that, Chloe, too. Right? How about number three? Did Andre leave yet? Did Andre leave yet? Did Andre leave yet? Tell me an appropriate one. So tell me about reading. I am very poor. Well, Sandeep, this one's for direct and indirect questions right now. We'll get to that another day about reading. But for true false, read carefully and look at where similar meaning words. That's some typical basic strategy, right? So, but number 3, did Andre leave yet? Oops. Did Andre leave yet? I'd like to know. Oh, let's see. Number 3. Did Andre leave yet? You could say, does anybody know if Andre left? Right? Does anyone know if Andre left? That's one you could say. What about number 4? Do they have any more bread? Do they have any more bread? Remind me. Dajong. Oh, welcome. Dajong Kim. Number 3, remind me. Okay, close. Typically, I like this. Did Andre live? Typically, for do questions, we want to add an if. This is very important, right? Dajong, thank you. Remind me. If Andre left. If we have a do question, like if someone did something, normally we add if, right? Did Andre leave? Could you tell me if, let me know, maybe let me know instead of tell me. Let me know if Andre left. Remind me if Andre left. You were right that the first time with left, right? Remind me if Andre left, right? What about John Adams? Do you have your example? Chloe, where is your example for Andre? You may have left too. Let me know if Chloe left. Dajan, thanks for joining in the conversation, by the way. And let's see. How about number 4? Oh, you are Chloe. Do you? Is it better on the Facebook one? Oops. Then let's take. Well, yeah, we'll leave this here. How about number 4? Do they have any more bread? Do they have any more bread? This will make it easier for me. So thank you for coming over here. That way I don't have to go back and forth between YouTube and Facebook. But Sangdeep, you can join in this conversation too. Number 4. Do they have any more bread? Do they have any more bread? And you can add this. Does anyone know? And you can add this in here. I'd like to know. Very nice. That they have any more bread. I'd like to know. I'd like to know if they have any more bread. I'd like to know if they have any more bread. Okay. And let's see. I'd like to know if they have any. And number 5, how many times can you jump rope? How many times can you jump rope? How many times can you jump rope? Make that an indirect question. How many times can you jump rope? You could start it with tell me, or excuse me, I'd like to know how many times you can jump rope. I'd like to know how many times you can jump rope. Could you tell me how many times you can jump rope? That's what I'm talking about. Chloe, well done. Sangdeep, please tell me how many times you jump ropes. ROPE, but I get your point. How many times you can? Right. How many times you can jump rope? Exactly. How about number 6? How old are you? How old are you? How old are you? Tell me an indirect question. How old are you? You could say, I'd like to know how old you are. Would you mind telling me how old you are? I would like to know how many times you jump rope. Good. Very nice. Deva, very nice. Thank you. Or how many times you can jump rope, even more specifically. So, how old are you? Tell me your sentence for how old are you? I'd like to know how old you are. Could you tell me how old you are? Could you let me know how old you are? I would like to know how old you are, something like that. Number 7, did they like pizza? Did they like pizza? May, tell me how older are you? We need to keep practicing, John Adams. May you tell me? Could you tell me? Can you tell me how old? Not how old are you? How old you are? Remember, we're reversing the questions and the sentences. Dajong, I wonder if they like good pizza. Pizza doesn't get an article. If they like pizza. Same thing as spaghetti. The only time that you'd get pizza with an article is if you're talking about a specific one. Whose pizza is that on the table? Whose is that pizza? I'd like to eat the pizza that's on the table, right? Then you get the if it's one specific pizza. But if it's pizza in general, I like eating pizza, then there's no article. There's no the. And what did you like best about the movie? What did you like best about the movie? What did you like best about the movie? How would you say that in an indirect question? What did you like best about the movie? What did you like best about the movie? We're making that an indirect question. Which section of movie you like most? That Sangdeep, that is a direct question. Which section? And we don't say section, we say part. But that's still a direct question, right? we want to have a beginning, right? Can you tell me? Let me know. Do you know? Any sort of tell me, ask me, any sorts of these beginnings, right? Ask me, could you tell me, remind me, do you know? I'd like to know, I wonder. These sorts of things are the beginnings of indirect questions, right? So I wonder which section of the movie you liked most, right? I wonder. Dajong, Chloe, I'd like to know what you liked best about the movie. That's what I'm talking about. You're the best. Perfect. I'd like to know, where are you? Deva, we need to work on uh, the order. Where are you is a direct question. I'd like to know where you are. Where are you? Direct question. I'd like to know where you are. Indirect question. Do you know how that guy talked with my daddy? Do you know that guy talked with my daddy? Mm, well, uh, John Adams, do you know that guy? I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. Maybe that guy's talking. Do you know that guy who's talking to my daddy? Like that guy who's talking to your daddy? Which part of the movie you like the most? Very nice. Iman, very nice. Which part of the movie do you like the most? I'd like to know where you are. Okay, very nice. And let me take these off of. Let me stop sharing that. Okay. Um, I'd like to know where you are. Perfect. Deva, that's perfect. Which part of the movie you like the most? Iman, you need to put a sentence starter. You may have come late to the class, so just go back and watch the beginning and we'll talk about order, the word order. Right. Okay. Now, let's try something new. First, thank you for joining me, everyone who's joining me and everyone who's who's here now. Thank you for joining me. And I'd like to try something. We're going to try something. If you have to go, then if you'd like one-on-one lessons with me, consider joining English Training and More, because it's €9 a month and you get private access. You get up free lessons, free conversations, free courses. There's a membership, and for being a member, you get a bunch of perks. So check that out, and do me a favor and click the share button whenever you see this. Share in a group, in a Facebook group. I know that many of you have come across me in Facebook groups, right? So share this there. Now, would you like to try to call for a chat? You can try to call and we can test some of this out. I'm not sure if this will work, but you can try calling we'll try this to see if this works. Call me on, well, if you have my Google Hangout, you can try calling me on Google Hangout. If not, try to, by the way, if you'd like to know my Google Hangout, then just message me and I'll let you know. But try calling me on Jesse Teacher on Facebook, and we'll try to have a chat. Maybe 10, 15 minutes, whatever. But we'll try to have a chat. So you're welcome to call. And if not, then I'll open the lines for other students to call. But and as far as the YouTube classes, the YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. And it does mean a lot. So thank you for that. Every Tuesday, I have a class here, and you're welcome to join me. If you join me on these Tuesday classes right now, it's free. Just sign up, and you can call me, and I'll give you my Google Hangout, and we can have a chat, and you can actually join in the lesson. That's why I'm doing it, to be honest, to have you join me and have you sign up, and we'll have an actual lesson, an actual class speaking. So sign up on Language Galaxy and ask me about that. And other than that, just subscribe, click the subscribe button, click the share button, anything that you can do to help spread the word. That'd be great. And like I said, I've told you about English training and more. The link's in the description box. Join us. Today, we have had more people on YouTube. That's great to see, and welcome. Thank you. Share the word and follow me on social media. I'm sticking around on Facebook at Jesse Teacher. So if you're on Jesse Teacher, stay put. And YouTube, see you later. Okay.